Captain Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the human diplomatic vessel New Seoul, watching the massive alien space station grow larger on the main screen. The station looked like a giant metal flower with sharp petals that could close and crush any ship stupid enough to get trapped inside. He had seen pictures before, but seeing it in person made his stomach twist with nervousness. "Captain, we're receiving docking instructions," said Communications Officer Yoo Jin from her station. Her voice was steady, but Hyun-woo could see her hands shaking slightly as she worked the controls. "Follow their directions exactly," Hyun-woo replied. "We don't want to give them any reason to think we're hostile." This was humanity's first official meeting with the Valorian Empire. The Valorians controlled dozens of star systems and had a reputation for being the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. They had never lost a war. Most alien species either joined them willingly or got conquered. The few that tried to fight back simply disappeared. Chief Diplomat Soo Jin walked onto the bridge, adjusting her formal blue uniform. She looked calm, but Hyun-woo had worked with her long enough to notice the tight line of her mouth. "Have you reviewed the cultural briefing again?" she asked. "3 times, Hyun-woo nodded. "Don't show weakness. Don't back down from challenges. Don't offer to shake hands because they might crush our bones by accident." "Good. And remember, they judge everyone by warrior standards. They respect strength above everything else." Military attaché Dong-ho joined them, his dress uniform covered with ribbons and medals. He was a veteran of the Mars colonial wars and looked comfortable even in this tense situation. "The weapons locker is secured as requested. We're going in completely unarmed." Cultural specialist Hae-won hurried onto the bridge, carrying a tablet loaded with information about Valorian customs. She was young for such an important mission, but she had studied alien cultures for years. "I've been reading more about their food customs," she said. "They view sharing meals as very significant. It only happens between equals or after establishing dominance." The New Seoul shuddered slightly as the docking clamps engaged. Through the viewports they could see Valorian guards waiting in the airlock. The aliens were massive, at least 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and bodies covered in what looked like natural armor. Their faces had too many teeth and eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. "Remember the plan," Soo Jin said as they gathered near the airlock. "We stay calm, show respect, but don't act afraid. They can probably smell fear anyway." The airlock cycled open with a hiss of equalizing air. The first Valorian to step through had to duck to fit through the human-sized doorway. His armor was decorated with symbols that the cultural briefing said indicated high rank. Behind him came 4 more Valorians, each carrying weapons that looked like they could cut through the ship's hull. "I am War Commander Thexvar of the Valorian 3rd Battle Fleet," the lead alien said in heavily accented but clear English. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "You are the human delegation?" "I am Captain Hyun-woo of the Earth Defense Force," Hyun-woo replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Chief Diplomat Soo Jin, Military Attaché Dong-ho, and Cultural Specialist Hae-won." Thexvar's 4 eyes studied each human carefully. "You are smaller than expected. Where are your weapons, your armor, your battle scars?" Dong-ho stepped forward slightly. "We come in peace, War Commander. We seek friendship between our peoples." "Peace." Thexvar repeated the word like it tasted bad. "Weaklings speak of peace. Warriors speak of honor and strength. What can your small species offer the Valorian Empire?" Soo Jin had prepared for this question. "We offer trade, knowledge, and mutual defense agreements. Humanity may be young in the galaxy, but we have survived and thrived on one of the most dangerous worlds known to science." "Dangerous world?" One of the other Valorians made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your homeworld has liquid water and breathable air. How dangerous can it be?" "More dangerous than you might think," Hae-won said quietly. Thexvar leaned down to examine the humans more closely. His breath smelled like burning metal. "You claim to be warriors, but you carry no weapons. You claim to come from a dangerous world, but you are soft and weak. Prove your worth." Hyun-woo felt sweat beading on his forehead. This was going exactly as they had feared. The Valorians only respected strength, and humans didn't look strong compared to 8-foot-tall armored aliens. Soo Jin cleared her throat. "War Commander, in human culture we have a saying. You cannot truly know someone until you have shared a meal with them. Perhaps we could better understand each other over food." The Valorians exchanged glances. Thexvar's expression was unreadable behind his armored face. "You wish to share food? This is unexpected. Most species we encounter offer weapons demonstrations or surrender documents. Food brings people together, Sujin explained. It shows trust and friendship. We would be honored to prepare a meal for you and your warriors. Interesting, Thexvar said slowly. In Valorian culture, sharing food is sacred. It is only done between equals, or after one has proven dominance over the other. You understand this? We understand the honor you would be showing us, Sujin replied carefully. Thexvar was quiet for a long moment. His four eyes studied the humans again, looking for signs of deception or weakness. Finally, he nodded. Very well. We will observe this human custom. But know this. If you attempt to poison us or show weakness, we will consider it an act of war. Of course, Hyunwoo said. We would expect nothing less from honorable warriors. Where will this meal take place? Thexvar asked. The station has a large galley area, Haiwan said, checking her tablet. We can prepare the food there if that's acceptable. You will prepare it yourself? Not servants or machines? That's the human way, Sujin explained. The preparation of food is as important as the eating. It shows respect for our guests. Thexvar made another grinding sound that might have been approval. This grows more interesting. What type of food do humans consume? Nutritional pastes? Processed proteins? The human delegation exchanged quick glances. This was where things would get complicated. We eat natural foods, Haewon said carefully. Fresh ingredients prepared in traditional ways. Natural foods, Thexvar repeated. Like the raw vegetation that grows on planets? Among other things, Sujin said. Human cuisine is quite diverse. We will observe this preparation process, Thexvar decided. My warriors will ensure there is no deception. When will this meal take place? We can begin preparations immediately if you wish, Hyunwoo offered. Our chef Minho is already aboard with everything we need. Chef? One of the other Valorians asked. What is a chef? A specialist in food preparation, Haewon explained. Someone trained in the art of cooking. The Valorians looked confused. In their culture, food was fuel, nothing more. The idea of making an art form out of eating was alien to them. Very well, Thexvar said. We will adjourn to the galley area. But remember, humans, any sign of treachery will be met with immediate force. My warriors do not show mercy to those who break hospitality. Understood, Sujin said. We look forward to sharing our culture with you. As they moved through the station corridors toward the galley, Hyunwoo couldn't help but notice how the Valorians moved. Despite their size, they were graceful and alert, like predators always ready to strike. Their weapons never left their hands, and their glowing eyes constantly scanned for threats. The galley area was large enough to accommodate both species, with high ceilings that let the Valorians stand upright. Chef Minho was already there, unpacking supplies from several large containers. He looked nervous but determined. War Commander, Sujin said formally. May I present our chef Minho? He will be preparing tonight's meal. Minho bowed respectfully. It is an honor to cook for such distinguished warriors. Thexvar studied the human chef with interest. You are the food warrior. You seem small for such an important role. Size isn't everything in cooking, Minho replied with a slight smile. Skill and knowledge matter more. We shall see, Thexvar said. Begin your preparations. We will watch and learn about human food customs. As Minho started unpacking his equipment, the Valorians gathered around to observe. They had no idea that they were about to witness something that would change their entire understanding of the small, seemingly harmless species called humanity. While Chef Minho continued unpacking his equipment, War Commander Thexvar activated a data terminal built into the galley wall. His forearms moved with practiced efficiency as he accessed the station's database. I wish to know more about your homeworld before we proceed, he announced. The terminal's screen flickered to life, displaying a star chart. Thexvar input the coordinates for Earth's solar system, and the display zoomed in on a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Earth, he read from the database. Third planet from its star. Class M atmosphere, surface gravity 1.0 standard. Looks harmless enough. His tone suggested disappointment. Cultural specialist Haewon moved closer to the terminal. You might want to look at the detailed classification, War Commander. Thexvar scrolled through more data, and his expression began to change. His four eyes widened slightly as new information appeared on the screen. Class 12 Deathworld, he said slowly. This must be an error. No error, Dong-Ho said quietly. The other Valorian warriors gathered around the terminal as Thexvar continued reading. The database began listing Earth's environmental hazards in clinical detail. Extreme weather systems that could destroy cities, massive predators that hunted in packs, plant life that produced toxins lethal to most known species, geological activity that could split continents. Your planet has creatures called sharks that have remained unchanged for millions of years because they are perfect killing machines? Thexvar asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Those are just the ones in the water, Haywan replied. We also have land predators, aerial predators, and microscopic predators that live inside other creatures. One of the Valorian warriors made a choking sound. You have predators that live inside prey animals? While they are still alive? Parasites, Dong-Ho nodded. Some of them can control their host's behavior, make them do things that help the parasite spread to new hosts. Thexvar scrolled through more data. It says here that your planet experiences natural disasters that can kill thousands of beings at once. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, floods, droughts, ice ages. We've learned to live with them, Captain Hunwoo said simply. Humans are very adaptable. According to this database, Thexvar continued, the atmospheric composition of your world would be toxic to 73% of known galactic species. The oxygen content alone would cause cellular damage to most life forms. That explains why we need these breathing masks when we visit other worlds, Sujin said, gesturing to the small respirator units attached to their belts. The war commander looked up from the terminal, studying the humans with new eyes. How many humans live on this death world? About 12 billion, Haywan replied. 12 billion, Thexvar repeated slowly. 12 billion beings living on a planet that should be uninhabitable. And you came from this place to offer us friendship? We thought it might be nice to meet our neighbors, Sujin said with a slight smile. One of the Valorian warriors spoke up in their own language, a series of clicks and growls. Thexvar responded in the same language, and soon all the aliens were talking rapidly among themselves. What are they saying? Hyunwoo whispered to Haywan. I'm not sure, she whispered back, but I think we've got their attention. Thexvar turned back to the humans. My warriors want to know how your species survived long enough to develop space travel. Most Deathworld species die out before they discover fire. We're stubborn, Dong-Ho said, and we work together when we need to. But mostly we're stubborn, Hyunwoo added. Chef Min-ho had been quietly setting up his cooking station while the others talked. Now he began unpacking ingredients from temperature-controlled containers. The smell of unfamiliar spices began to fill the air. Thexvar's attention was drawn to the chef's activities. What are those implements? He asked, pointing to the array of knives and tools Min-ho was arranging on the counter. Cooking equipment, Min-ho replied, holding up a large chef's knife. This is for cutting vegetables. This one is for meat. This smaller one is for detail work. The Valorian warriors stepped back slightly. To them, the knives looked like weapons designed for close combat. The largest one could easily pierce their armor. You use weapons to prepare food? Thexvar asked. They're not weapons, Min-ho explained patiently. They're tools, see? He picked up a tomato and began slicing it with quick, precise movements. The knife moved so fast it was almost a blur, but each slice was perfectly even. The Valorians watched in fascination. Min-ho's movements were controlled and deadly accurate. In their warrior culture, such precision with a blade was highly respected. How long did it take you to learn that skill? One of the warriors asked. About 15 years to get really good at it, Min-ho replied, continuing to slice vegetables. But I started learning when I was a child. Your children train with bladed weapons? Thexvar asked, sounding impressed. We train them to cook, Sujin corrected. But yes, using knives safely is part of basic human education. Haywan pulled up more information on her tablet. War Commander, would you like to know more about human food culture? It might help you understand what we're doing here. Thexvar nodded, his four eyes still fixed on Min-ho's knife work. Humans are omnivores. Haywan began. We eat both plant and animal matter. Our digestive systems can process foods that would be toxic or indigestible to most species. Toxic foods? Thexvar asked. Well, not exactly toxic to us, Haywan clarified. But many things humans eat regularly would be dangerous to other species. We have a high tolerance for alkaloids, capsaicin, alcohol, caffeine. I do not know these terms, Thexvar admitted. Min-ho looked up from his cutting board. Have you ever heard of something called spice? He asked. The Valorians exchanged glances. Spice is a trade commodity, one of them said. Very expensive. Some species use tiny amounts to flavor their food. Humans use a lot of spice, Minho said with a grin. He opened a container and the smell of chili peppers filled the air. Several Valorians stepped back, their breathing apparatus clicking as filters engaged. Warning, the station's computer announced. Airborne irritants detected in galley area. Ventilation increasing to maximum. That's just the peppers, Minho said apologetically. Sorry, I should have warned you. These are pretty mild by human standards. Mild? Thexavar asked, his voice slightly strained. The station's air filters are working at maximum capacity. These are only about 5,000 Scoville units, Minho explained. Some humans eat peppers that measure over 1 million Scoville units. For fun. The Valorians looked at each other in disbelief. For fun? Thexavar repeated. Humans enjoy the sensation of eating spicy food, Haywan explained. The burning feeling releases chemicals in our brains that make us feel good. You deliberately consume substances that cause pain. Because it feels good? One of the warriors asked. When you put it like that, it sounds strange, Sujin admitted. But yes, that's accurate. Thexavar was quiet for a moment, processing this information. What other dangerous substances do humans consume for pleasure? Well, Dongho said thoughtfully, there's alcohol, which is technically poison, caffeine, which is a stimulant drug, chocolate, which contains compounds that would be toxic to many species, fermented foods that use controlled bacterial growth, Thexavar interrupted. You deliberately introduce bacteria into your food? Fermentation. Minho nodded, pulling out a container of kimchi. This has been fermenting for 6 months. The bacteria break down the vegetables and create new flavors. The container hissed slightly as Minho opened it. The smell of fermented cabbage and garlic filled the air, and the Valorian's breathing apparatus clicked again. It's alive, one of the warriors whispered, staring at the kimchi. Very much alive, Minho confirmed cheerfully. That's what makes it so good for you. All those healthy bacteria help your digestive system. Thexavar looked at the bubbling, fermenting vegetables, then at the humans who were discussing this biological weapon as if it were a delicacy. He was beginning to understand that he had severely underestimated these small, seemingly harmless beings, perhaps, he said slowly. We should observe the rest of your food preparation before making any judgments. Good idea, Minho said, pulling out more ingredients. We're just getting started. As the chef began assembling his cooking equipment, the Valorians realized they were about to witness something far more dangerous than they had imagined. Chef Minho reached into one of his cooling containers and pulled out something that made the Valorian warriors step back in alarm. It was a large fish, but unlike anything they had seen before. Its eyes were still clear, its gills still moved slightly, and when Minho placed it on the cutting board, its tail twitched. This is a salmon, Minho explained calmly, as if holding a living creature destined for slaughter was the most natural thing in the world. Very fresh. I kept it in stasis until just now. War Commander Thexavar watched in fascination as Minho picked up his largest knife. You are going to kill it yourself? Here, now? Of course, Minho replied, positioning the knife with practiced precision. Fresh fish tastes much better than frozen. The key is to kill it quickly and cleanly so it doesn't suffer. With one swift movement, Minho brought the knife down behind the fish's head. The salmon stopped moving instantly. Then, with movements so fast and precise they seemed almost artistic, he began to fillet the fish. The knife moved through flesh and bone like they weren't even there. Incredible, whispered one of the Valorian warriors. Look at the precision. Look at the speed. Within minutes, Minho had transformed the whole fish into neat portions of meat, with no waste and no unnecessary cuts. His hands and knife were clean, and he hadn't even looked down at his work after the first cut. How many creatures have you killed this way? Thexavar asked, his voice filled with what might have been respect. Oh, thousands, Minho said casually, washing his hands. But only for food. Humans don't waste life. If we kill something, we eat it. He reached for another container and pulled out what looked like a small octopus. This one was definitely alive, its tentacles wrapping around his fingers as he lifted it. This little guy is for a special dish, Minho explained. In Korea, we sometimes eat octopus while it's still moving. The tentacles keep trying to grip your teeth while you chew. The Valorians stared in horror. You eat prey while it is still alive? Thexavar asked. Sometimes, Minho nodded. It's considered a delicacy. Very fresh, and the texture is interesting. Agricultural specialist Yu Jin joined Min Ho at the preparation counter, carrying her own containers. She began unpacking vegetables that looked dangerous even to the humans. Bright red peppers that seemed to glow with internal heat. Onions that made the air sharp and painful to breathe. Garlic cloves that smelled strong enough to kill insects. These are ghost peppers, Yu Jin explained, holding up a wrinkled red pepper that was barely 2 inches long. About 1 million Scoville units. We'll only use a tiny piece. She put on protective gloves before handling the pepper, and even then she was careful not to touch her face. When she made the first cut, the smell that emerged was so intense that the station's air recycling system kicked into emergency mode. Warning, the computer announced. Atmospheric contamination detected. Initiating full air purge? Sorry, Yu Jin said to the Valorians who had backed away to the far side of the galley. I should have warned you about this. These peppers are used as non-lethal weapons on some worlds. You use weapons as food? Thexavar asked, his voice muffled by his breathing apparatus. We use food as weapons sometimes too, Dongho added helpfully. Pepper spray, tear gas made from onions, garlic oil for crowd control. Yu Jin continued preparing vegetables that looked like they belonged in a chemical weapons lab. When she started chopping onions, tears began streaming down her face. To the Valorians, it looked like the vegetables were fighting back, releasing toxins that caused physical pain. Are you injured? One of the warriors asked, pointing at Yu Jin's tears. No, this is normal, she laughed, wiping her eyes with her sleeve. Onions make humans cry. It's just a natural reaction to the sulfur compounds they release when cut. The food fights back? Thexavar asked. Plants don't want to be eaten, Yu Jin explained, so they evolve chemical defenses. Humans just learn to like the taste of those chemicals. Assistant Jae-sung arrived at the cooking area carrying equipment that looked more like industrial machinery than kitchen tools. He began setting up heating elements that glowed red-hot within seconds. Flames shot up from metal grates as he adjusted the gas flow. What is that device? A Valorian warrior asked, eyeing the flames nervously. Just a grill, Jae-sung replied, checking the temperature with an infrared thermometer. I need to get it up to about 800 degrees Fahrenheit for proper searing. 800 degrees? Thexvar calculated quickly. That is hot enough to melt standard hull plating. Perfect for cooking meat, Jae-sung agreed. The high heat creates a chemical reaction on the surface that gives it flavor. We call it the Maillard reaction. He placed a large piece of beef on the grill and it immediately began to sizzle and smoke. The smell of burning meat filled the air, along with the sound of fat popping and crackling in the intense heat. You are burning the flesh? Thexvar asked. Just the outside, Jae-sung explained. The inside stays rare and tender. Humans like different levels of cooking. Some prefer it almost raw, others like it completely cooked through. Minho joined Jae-sung at the grill, carrying the salmon he had prepared. I'm going to show you something special, he said to the watching Valorians. He poured alcohol over the fish and then lit it with a small torch. Blue flames danced across the salmon's surface. You are using fire as a cooking tool? Thexvar asked, his 4 eyes wide. Fire is one of humanity's oldest cooking methods. Cultural specialist Hai Wan explained, joining the group around the grill. We've been using controlled fire for hundreds of thousands of years. It's one of the things that made us human. Most species fear fire, one of the Valorian warriors observed. It destroys. It kills. Humans learn to control it, Heywan replied. We use it to transform raw ingredients into something better. Fire changes the chemical structure of food, makes it easier to digest, creates new flavors. Yu Jin began heating oil in a large pan. When it reached the right temperature, she added garlic and the smell became so intense that it seemed solid. Then she added the ghost pepper she had prepared, and the oil began to bubble and smoke. The oil is now weaponized, she announced cheerfully. In some human cultures, we use this as a base for soup. Soup? Thexvar asked weakly. A liquid food, Heywan explained. We heat various ingredients in water or broth until they blend together. Very comforting. You find weapons-grade chemicals comforting? A Valorian warrior asked. Food is comfort, Minho said, flipping the salmon with practiced ease. When humans are sad or scared or lonely, we cook. We eat together. It makes everything better. Jae-sung began preparing another dish that involved techniques the Valorians had never seen before. He took raw vegetables and began slicing them so thin they were almost transparent. Then he arranged them in precise patterns on plates. adding drops of various sauces in artistic designs. This is called presentation, he explained. Humans eat with their eyes first. The food must look beautiful as well as taste good. You create art from the bodies of your prey? Thexvar asked. We create art from everything, Sujin said proudly. Music, painting, sculpture, dance, poetry, and yes, food. Humans turn survival into beauty. The cooking continued for another hour. The humans worked with deadly precision, using tools that could kill, handling ingredients that could blind or poison, controlling fire that could destroy cities. And through it all, they laughed and talked as if they were playing a children's game. Minho began preparing the kimchi he had shown them earlier. He mixed it with other fermented vegetables, creating a dish that bubbled and hissed like a living thing. This is alive with bacteria, he explained. Good bacteria that help human digestion. We've been eating fermented foods for thousands of years. You deliberately consume bacterial colonies? Thexvar asked. Billions of them, Minho nodded. They're part of what keeps us healthy. Humans and bacteria have been partners for millions of years. Yujin finished preparing a sauce that was so spicy, the air above it shimmered with heat. This is gochujang, she said. Fermented chili paste. It's about 50,000 Scoville units, so it's pretty mild by Korean standards. The Valorians looked at the bubbling, smoking, hissing array of dishes being prepared and began to understand something important. These humans weren't just survivors of a death world. They had turned their planet's attempts to kill them into a celebration. They had made an art form out of consuming poison and a social ritual out of controlled violence. War Commander, one of the Valorian warriors said quietly in their own language. These beings are far more dangerous than we thought. Thexvar nodded slowly, his four eyes fixed on the humans as they continued their deadly, beautiful, terrifying food preparation. Yes, he replied, but they might also be exactly the allies we need. The moment had arrived. Minho, Yujin, and Jae-sung finished the last preparations and began arranging dishes on the large table in the center of the galley. The Valorians watched from a safe distance as plate after plate of what looked like biological warfare appeared before them. Please, War Commander, Chief Diplomat Sujin said formally. Join us at the table. The meal is ready. War Commander Thexvar approached slowly, his four eyes scanning the array of food with the same caution he would use when examining enemy weapons. The other Valorian warriors followed, their breathing apparatus working overtime to filter the complex mixture of aromas filling the air. Before we begin, cultural specialist Haiwan said, let me explain some of the dishes we've prepared for you. She gestured to a large bowl filled with fermented vegetables that seemed to move slightly on their own. This is kimchi. It's been fermenting for 6 months with beneficial bacteria. The bubbling you see is the bacteria still working. Thexvar leaned closer and immediately stepped back. It is alive. Very much so, Haiwan confirmed. Koreans believe that eating living food gives you strength and health. The bacteria become part of your body's natural defenses. Next, she pointed to thin slices of raw fish arranged in perfect patterns. This is sashimi, the salmon Minho prepared earlier. It's completely raw, just the way humans prefer it. You eat dead flesh without cooking it? One of the Valorian warriors asked. Cooking changes the texture and flavor, Minho explained. Raw fish has a clean, pure taste that's very delicate. You have to trust your ingredients completely. And this, Haiwan continued, indicating a bowl of soup that was actually steaming and bubbling, is kimchi jjigae, hot soup made with fermented vegetables, aged pork, and enough chili to qualify as a chemical weapon on most worlds. The soup was so spicy that the air above it shimmered with heat. Even the humans approached it with respect. The dark red sauce, Yujin added, pointing to a small bowl, is gochujang, fermented chili paste. We use it like other species use salt. Jae-sung indicated the grilled meat he had prepared. This is bulgogi. The meat was marinated in soy sauce, garlic, ginger, and rice wine, then grilled at temperatures hot enough to damage starship hulls. Wine? Thexvar asked. Fermented fruit juice, Dongho explained. Alcohol. It's mildly poisonous to humans, but we drink it for pleasure. It affects our brain chemistry in ways that make us feel relaxed and social. The Valorians exchanged glances. These humans were casually discussing consuming poisons, bacterial colonies, and industrial temperature cooked flesh as if it were completely normal. And this centerpiece, Haiwan said proudly, gesturing to a large platter, is bibimbap, mixed rice with vegetables from across Earth's ecosystems. Each ingredient was chosen for its unique chemical properties. The dish was a work of art, with different colored vegetables arranged in perfect sections around white rice. But to the Valorians, it looked like a sampling of Earth's most dangerous plant life. Captain Hyunwoo sat down at the table and picked up metal implements that looked suspiciously like miniature weapons. "These are chopsticks," he explained, demonstrating their use. "We use them to manipulate food precisely. More bladed tools," Thexvar observed. "Everything humans use becomes a tool," Sujin said with a smile. "Or a weapon if necessary. But today they're just for eating." Minho began serving portions to each person, including the Valorians. He placed small amounts of each dish on plates, creating miniature versions of the larger displays. "Start with something mild," he suggested to Thexvar, pointing to the plain white rice. "Work your way up to the more challenging dishes." Thexvar studied his plate as if it might explode. The rice looked harmless enough, but it was surrounded by vegetables that appeared to glow with internal toxins, and meat that had been subjected to industrial-level heating. The humans began eating with obvious pleasure. Hyunwoo picked up a piece of kimchi with his chopsticks and chewed it thoughtfully. "Perfect fermentation," he said to Minho. "The bacteria balance is excellent." Yujin tried the bulgogi and smiled. "The marinade really penetrated the meat. You can taste the garlic and ginger all the way through. This gochujang has a good burn," Dong-ho added, spooning the red paste directly onto his rice. Nice heat buildup. The Valorians watched in amazement as the humans discussed the various ways their food was trying to kill them, as if they were talking about the weather. Sujin ate raw fish without hesitation. Hai-wan consumed fermented vegetables that were still bubbling with bacterial activity. Jae-sung added more hot sauce to soup that was already releasing visible fumes. "Are you not concerned about poisoning?" Thexvar asked. "These foods aren't poisonous to humans," xenobiologist Tae-hyun explained, joining the conversation. "We evolved alongside them. Our digestive systems can handle things that would kill most galactic species. It's one of the advantages of coming from a death world. What you call poison, we call seasoning," Minho added, taking a large bite of kimchi. "What you call weapons-grade chemicals, we call flavor enhancers." Thexvar looked down at his own plate. The rice seemed safe enough. Carefully, he picked up a single grain with 2 of his forefingers and placed it on his tongue. The reaction was immediate and intense. His eyes widened, his breathing apparatus clicked rapidly, and he made a sound that might have been surprise or pain. "Too spicy?" Yujin asked with concern. "Spicy?" Thexvar gasped. "That was plain rice. Rice absorbs flavors from everything around it," Minho explained. "It probably picked up some chili oil from the other dishes." That grain of rice contained more flavor compounds than most Valorian meals, Thexvar said, his voice filled with wonder. "How do you process such intense sensations?" "Practice," Dong-ho said simply. "Human children start with mild foods and gradually build up tolerance. By the time we're adults, we can handle almost anything." "Even the children consume these substances?" one of the Valorian warriors asked. "Korean children eat kimchi before they can walk," Haewon said proudly. "Spicy food is part of our culture from birth. Your offspring are trained as poison eaters from infancy," Thexvar said slowly. "No wonder your species survived a death world." Historical specialist So Young joined the discussion. "Food sharing is humanity's oldest social bonding activity. Before we had language, before we had tools, before we had fire, we shared food. It's how we show trust, friendship, and love. When humans invite you to share a meal," Sujin explained, "we're offering you our most precious resource. We're saying that you're important enough to us that we'll give you the sustenance we need to survive. But more than that," Haewon added, "we're showing you who we are. Our food tells the story of our world, our history, our values. Every dish is a lesson in human survival." Thexvar attempted another grain of rice, this time prepared for the intensity. The flavors exploded across his palate. Salt, sweet, sour, bitter, and that burning sensation humans called spicy all at once. "Incredible," he whispered. "It is like experiencing a battle between chemical compounds on your tongue." "That's actually a pretty good description," Minho laughed. "Korean food is definitely aggressive. We learned to find pleasure in pain," Yujin explained. "Humans are probably the only species that deliberately seeks out foods that cause physical discomfort." "Why?" asked a Valorian warrior. "Because the pain means we're alive," Dong-ho replied. "On a world that's constantly trying to kill you, pain is proof that you're still fighting." The humans continued eating. sharing stories about their favorite foods, family recipes passed down through generations, and meals that marked important moments in their lives. They talked about comfort foods that helped them through difficult times and celebration foods that marked happy occasions. Food is memory, So Young explained. Every human carries the taste of their childhood, their homeland, their family history. When we eat, we're not just feeding our bodies. We're connecting with our past and our people. Thexvar watched Hyunwoo laugh at something Sujin said while eating what was essentially a bowl of controlled bacterial warfare. He observed Yujin and Minho discussing the proper fermentation time for kimchi, as if they were planning a military campaign. He saw Dongho casually consume substances that would require hazmat protocols on most worlds. "You have turned survival into celebration," Thexvar said finally. "You have made art from necessity and found joy in struggle." "That's very poetic, War Commander," Sujin replied. "But yes, that's essentially what humans do. We refuse to let a hostile universe make us miserable." "Even your food is an act of defiance," Thexvar observed. "You consume the very things that should kill you and call it delicious." "Now you're beginning to understand us," Haewon said with a smile. War Commander Thexvar set down his eating utensils and looked across the table at the human delegation. Around him, his warriors were attempting small tastes of the various dishes, each reaction more dramatic than the last. One had tried a piece of kimchi and was now making sounds that might have been crying or praying. Another had attempted the bulgogi and was frantically drinking water while praising its flavor. "I must ask you something," Thexvar said to Captain Hyunwoo. "This meal you have shared with us, is this typical human food?" The humans exchanged glances and smiled. "This is actually pretty mild," Minho admitted. "We didn't want to overwhelm you on the first meeting." "Mild?" Thexvar repeated, his 4 eyes wide. "You consider bacterial warfare and industrial temperature cooking to be mild?" "Well," Yujin said thoughtfully, "we didn't use any of the really hot peppers, and we kept the fermentation levels pretty low. Traditional Korean food can be much more intense." Cultural specialist Haewon pulled out her tablet and showed Thexvar some images. "These are Carolina Reapers," she said, displaying pictures of peppers that looked like they were glowing with radioactive energy. "They measure over 2 million Scoville units. Some humans eat them whole for fun." "For fun?" Thexvar repeated weakly. "And this," she continued, showing another image, "is surströmming, fermented fish from Sweden. It's so pungent that it's banned from most apartment buildings. The smell can make people faint." "Humans eat fish that can cause unconsciousness through smell alone?" one of the Valorian warriors asked. "Some do," Dongho nodded. "It's an acquired taste. Like many human foods, it's considered a delicacy by those who grow up with it." Historical specialist So Young leaned forward. "What you need to understand, War Commander, is that food isn't just nutrition for humans. It's communication. Every culture on Earth has its own way of preparing food, and each method tells a story." "What story does this meal tell?" Thexvar asked. "It tells the story of a people who refused to give up," So Young replied. "When early humans faced harsh winters, they learned to ferment vegetables so they wouldn't starve. When they encountered toxic plants, they found ways to process them safely. When they had only tough, stringy meat, they developed techniques to make it tender and flavorful. Every dish is a victory," Sujin added. "Every recipe is proof that humans can adapt to anything." Xenobiologist Tae Hyun had been quietly observing the Valorians' reactions to the food. "Your species has impressive physical capabilities," he said to Thexvar. "Strength, speed, natural armor. But humans develop different advantages, such as," Thexvar asked, "adaptability, creativity, stubbornness." Taehyun smiled. "We're not the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy, but we might be the most persistent. And the most social," Haewon added. "Sharing food builds bonds between humans. It creates trust and cooperation. Even enemies can become friends over a good meal." One of the Valorian warriors had been attempting to eat the bibimbap, carefully separating each ingredient and tasting them individually. "These vegetables," he said, pointing to the various components, "they each have different chemical signatures. Some burn, some are bitter, some are sweet. How do you combine them without creating toxic reactions?" "Balance," Minho explained. "Korean cooking is all about balance. Spicy and cool, fermented and fresh, sweet and salty. Each flavor supports the others." "Like a military strategy," the warrior observed. "Exactly like a military strategy," Minho agreed. Korean cooking is very tactical. Every ingredient has a purpose. Thexvar had been thinking quietly while the others talked. Finally he spoke. I believe I understand now why your species has survived when others have not. You do not simply endure hardship. You transform it into strength. That's a beautiful way to put it, Sujin said. Your food is not just sustenance, Thexvar continued. It is proof of your mastery over your environment. You have taken everything that tried to kill you and made it serve your purposes instead. We learned that the things that make life difficult often make life interesting too, Dongho said. Spicy food hurts, but it also wakes up your senses. Fermented food smells strange, but it has complex flavors you can't get any other way. And sharing it with others, Haewon added, makes even the strangest food taste better. Thexvar looked around the table at his warriors, who were still struggling with the human food but continuing to try new dishes anyway. My people respect strength above all else, he said. We have always measured strength by the ability to defeat enemies and conquer worlds. And now? Sujin asked. Now I think we have been measuring the wrong things, Thexvar admitted. True strength is not just the ability to destroy. It is the ability to survive, to adapt, to find joy even in hostile circumstances. He picked up another piece of rice, this time managing to consume it without visible distress. You have shown us something remarkable today. You have shown us that even the smallest beings can possess the greatest strength. We're not that small, Yunwoo protested with a laugh. Compared to us, you are tiny, Thexvar replied. But your spirits are immense. Your courage is boundless, and your food is terrifying. The humans laughed at this, and after a moment the Valorians joined in with their own grinding. Mechanical sounds of amusement. War Commander, Sujin said formally, on behalf of humanity, I want to thank you for sharing this meal with us. In our culture, eating together makes us family. Family? Thexvar asked. People who care about each other. People who will help each other in times of trouble. People who share their food even when they don't have much. Thexvar considered this. In Valorian culture, family bonds were created through combat and proven in battle. But perhaps there were other ways to build loyalty and trust. Chief Diplomat Sujin, he said formally, I would like to propose an alliance between the Valorian Empire and humanity. We would be honored, Sujin replied. What terms do you suggest? Mutual defense. Trade agreements. Cultural exchange. Thexvar paused. And I would like to invite human chefs to prepare meals for our military commanders. If our warriors can learn to eat Deathworld food, they will become stronger. It would be our pleasure, Minho said, though we might want to start them on something milder than kimchi. No, Thexvar said firmly. If we are to learn human strength, we must experience human challenges. My warriors will eat what you eat or they will admit weakness. One of the Valorian warriors made a choking sound that might have been laughter or terror. In return, Thexvar continued, we offer you protection, advanced technology, and access to galactic trade routes. But more than that, we offer you respect. You have proven today that size and appearance mean nothing. Character is everything. There's one more thing, Haewon said. Captain Hyunwoo has been authorized to extend an invitation. Would you and your warriors like to visit Earth? We could show you a real Korean barbecue. The Valorians looked at each other nervously. Korean barbecue? Thexvar asked. Oh yes, Yujin said with enthusiasm. Open flames, fresh meat, live cooking, interactive dining. Much more intense than what we did today. We grill the meat right at the table, Jae-sung added. Everyone participates in the cooking process. You mean, one of the Valorian warriors said slowly. The food preparation we witnessed today was not the complete human food experience? Not even close, Minho laughed. Today was just a simple meal between friends. Wait until you see what we do for celebrations. Thexvar was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up, his massive frame filling the galley space. His warriors followed suit. Humans of Earth, he said formally. The Valorian Empire accepts your alliance and your invitation. We will visit your death world and experience this Korean barbecue you speak of. And may the cosmos help us all survive the experience. Welcome to the family, War Commander, Sujin said, raising her glass of water in a toast. To new friends, Thexvar replied, raising his own glass carefully. And to the terrifying realization that the smallest predators are often the most dangerous. As they drank the toast, Thexvar couldn't help but think that his warriors were about to face their greatest challenge yet. And for the first time in Valorian history, it would involve vegetables. The feast was over, but the real adventure was just beginning. Somewhere in the back of his mind, Texvar wondered what other surprises these remarkable Deathworlders might have in store for the galaxy. He suspected he was about to find out.